Thank you so much for coming to our webinar today. I am Nate. I'm the marketing manager at Vetstoria, and you've probably received my email marketing, and that's why you're here. Um, and apologies if I seem a bit off because it is 3 a.m. in the UK. But today we're very honored to have a homegrown talent, home as in Australia, James Ramsden, CEO of Petpack, an Australia-based marketing agency. James has had an illustrious career spanning over decades. He's lent his expertise, to big names like Hills, Mars, and a household name, Pfizer. I mean, I myself have been double Pfizered, and I hope you are too. Yeah, usually, at webinars, you see our CEO, Julian Renard, and he's currently on a plane to Las Vegas. So it's crazy how different parts of the world, how people are living in such different conditions, in different parts of the world. And yeah, I hope you guys get out of your lockdown soon. Good afternoon, James. How are you?
I'm great, Nate. Thanks very much for that intro. Good to be here, and thanks for having us. Thanks for organising this with the Petpack guys as well. It's terrific.
Yeah, and yeah, before I hand it over to you, I just want to remind everybody, we'd like today to be very interactive. Feel free to ask questions because the topic is important and it is practical, and you'd want to, I guess, adapt what you learned here to your very own needs. Feel free to let us know any specific questions you have in the Q&A box, or simply put it in the chat. So, oh, and also it is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to you automatically. And all right, I think that's it. Over to you, James.
That's terrific. Thanks for the intro, Nate. Thanks everyone for coming, and particularly people in Australia and New Zealand, but also particularly people in other time slots, whether you're listening to live or afterwards. So thanks for joining us. The topic, as Nate said, is about email. So email engagement for veterinary practices, why email still matters to pet owners. And this is a very important topic that we are expert in, which you'll see as we go through, meaning we spend a lot of time working in this area. And there's a few pointers which I want to share with you about how to be effective in using email for your client communications. So just a bit of background, I am the MD and founded Petpack, which is a specialist organisation for online marketing for vets. And the reason I mention that is because in our markets, at least, we're the only organisation that focuses on online marketing communications just for vets. The origins of the business are that I am a vet, and the part of being a vet that interested me was in being effective in communication with my clients. And I found that the more effective we were with the communication, the better they looked after their animals, and the less problems we had. And so we founded Petpack on that premise, that if you can improve communication with pet owners and your local community, you get much better results. And at the end of the day, most of us are in this business as veterinary team members to actually get better animal health care outcomes. And this is an important part of communication. Now, we work closely with Vetstoria. The reason we're here today is that I met Julian in Australia quite a few years ago now, and we have worked together primarily because our clients, who are veterinary practices across Australia and New Zealand, use Vetstoria as a booking system, and we've learnt how Vetstoria operates. We like the way Vetstoria operates, and we're very keen to recommend it. There are other booking systems out there, and which we equally support. But our relationship with Vetstoria is quite special. So we're very pleased to be here today. The interesting thing about Petpack, we were founded in 2001, which is eons ago. It's almost last millennium. But our first product was email. It was a very simple and different tool in those days, but it's interesting that email has lasted the test of time. And the reason for this seminar today is because sometimes it can get lost in the noise of other types of communication. So we want to reinforce the role that email plays. So just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at why client engagement matters and what it can do for you. We're going to look at how email compares to social. So that's a hot topic. How to grow and manage your subscriber list, because you need email addresses for this to work. What makes a good subject line, an email subject line. What to write about and how to get it written. And then when and how often you should send. And finally, how to measure your success. One of the key things for us at Petpack, whenever we deliver an online marketing service to one of our clients, is measuring the impact both of how that service is working, but also the impact on the clinic. So let's just focus on this key thing, which is client engagement. Now, the importance of client engagement is it underpins why we bother with email and a bunch of other online marketing tools. What we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain our connection with our clients. The reason for that is that the studies show clearly that pet owners increasingly want to do the best thing for their animals. The veterinary clinics have all the information, and what's missing often is a piece between which connects all that information in an easy to digest and comprehensible way to a pet owner so they can actually act on it. And what we know is that if you actually do that, you actually improve the communication, the pet owners lap it up and they go ahead and look after animals better, and we measure that. So it's very powerful. We like to think at Petpack that good communication is 50% of being a good vet clinic. Now, that's our view. But there's certainly there's some evidence to show that communication, good effective communication, makes a significant difference, up to 50% improvement in compliance. A 50% improvement is significant. It's worth a lot of reduced pain and a lot of money to vets. So let's talk about that. So, you know, what are the benefits of regular email communications? And, you know, regular email communications are a form of client engagement. What they do is that allows you to connect with your clients on an ongoing basis. And remember, when your client walks out the door, the pet owner walks out the door, they don't think about the practice again, unless they've got a problem. Whereas when we're in practice, we think that our clients are thinking about animal care all the time. But they're not. They walk out the door. You've given them the advice and care that they were seeking, and they go and think about something else. Now, the problem with that is there's a bunch of things that you would like to recommend they do when they get home, which might include considering getting a dental done. And if you're not in regular communication with them, it's very hard for them to actually do that. There's very few people who are organised enough to keep all those tasks in order and to get them all done. So the benefits of regular email communication are, in short, and this is the top line here, it drives regular visits and better animal health outcomes. And that's because one of the key things about a regular communication is that it keeps you top of mind. And as long as that communication is effective and engaging, the client will be thinking of you. And the key thing, which we'll get to in a bit more detail as we go through, is that when they are ready to act, and you don't know when that is. You recommended a dental in the consult room, it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months. But when they're ready, the first one they think about is you. Now, if you're not in regular communication, they won't think about you first. And they'll be in the supermarket, and they'll see that dental product they can buy for $3. They go, yeah, no, I know I need to do something about those teeth, let's just get that. So regular communication is very important for keeping your connection with your clients and helping you do your job better. So the result of all this, if you are being effective with your regular communication, you get better lifetime value from your clients. They spend more with you on an annual basis, and they may even last with you longer as well. We'd like to see, average lifetime spend with clients go from 3,000 to 4,000 Aussie. And this is an important part of that. And it creates loyal client relationships, which basically means people are more connected to you, and they're more inclined to recommend you. They're more inclined to listen to what you say, and they're more inclined to stay connected. And protecting against client loss from local competitors is not just other vet clinics it's protecting the loss against, it's also protecting against loss of action and activity to supermarkets and other outlets. And we talked about word of mouth, but at the end of the day, this is really helping you as a practice, as a business, to achieve growth. So here's some interesting stats, and we put this one together because generally in the current environment, social media is the thing that clinic teams like to focus on, and social media is very important, and we focus heavily on it, and we have significant and sophisticated systems that work with social media. However, how many of you out there knew that 5.2% of your Facebook fans will actually see your posts? It's like frighteningly low. Like when we started doing social a few years ago, it was sitting at about 14%, and it's increasingly getting smaller and smaller. So be very aware that when you're putting effort into social, what's actually happening. Now, conversely, email, almost 90% of your recipients on your list on average will get that email. Now, whether they look at it or not, that's up to them. And we'll get to open rates in a minute, but that is phenomenally different. It's other end of the spectrum. Now, it is important to know that social media posts have a more personal impact on the reader. And this is all about the way social works. It's like, you know, you talk to your friends, they see a bit from your vet, whatever. But on the flip side of that, email is something where you can actually make very strong recommendations and provide offers to your clients because they've given you their email address, asking you to send them information that's relevant to the health of their animal. So you can be more commercial in email, which is fantastic when you actually want to have the drive on a particular issue. And the key thing here, as we're talking about here, is that regularity is the key. So with email, you can be sure that that email is going to land in their inbox every month. If you're sending it every month is what you recommend. Whereas with social, it's potluck. So they're very different beasts. We actually work with them together, and we actually share content, timetables and structures across the different media, and it has a cumulative interactive effect. But it's important to know that email has some very strong characteristics by itself. So now we're on to growing your list. And that means growing your email list, you know, getting as many clients in as possible. The first thing I want to say is that, yes, your clients are interested in hearing regularly from you. Now, I say that because one of the pushbacks we get from clinics is, oh, I just don't want to annoy my clients. I don't want to send them, you know, I don't like getting emails, lots of emails. I don't want to annoy my clients. It's really important for us to say here, to tell you here that our research and experience shows that the opposite applies. Whereas a person like yourself or a consumer might not want to get lots of emails from, you know, an electronic retailer, electronic store, or something that's, you know, they don't have a strong relationship, because they have an emotional connection with you, because you're looking after an important part of their family, they want the information. So they want more information from you, as long as it's good quality, than less. So first of all, you're on the right pathway. And then we've got a couple of notes here in terms of when you grow your list, you know, checking your territory's email requirements, because some of the people would be on this call will be coming from territories where those requirements are different. But we also encourage clinics to get an email address from every client. So we spent a lot of time working with our clients over the years to get them into the habit of asking every single client. And they're way better at it today than they were when we started in 2001, when email was a bit of a fringe tool. You can do things like advertising, email, you know, newsletter, wherever possible. And as long as, and if you're showing the clients what you're going to send them, they love to subscribe to it. They want the newsletter. And lastly, the average client that works with us has almost 2,000 email addresses on their list. So it's a significant communication channel. So once you've got your email list together, you actually need to look after it. So you're starting to see there's a few jobs to do here. One of the key things, and you can read through the list here, but one of the key things, in addition to adding new subscribers, is if you have an email address that bounces, you need to be aware that if you get on the phone and contact that client, lots of good things will happen. So it's not just an administrative task. The administrative bit is ringing the client saying, hey, Gary, your email address bounced. Oh, gee, yeah, I need to fix that. or, I've got a new one, or whatever it is. But the other thing, and if you're well organized as a clinic, you can also do is have the client profile up on the screen and say to Gary, because this is the case with most clients, Poppy's overdue for the vaccination. Do you want to book it in? And they go, oh yeah, absolutely, thank you. So we have clinics who do that and actually make the administrative task of following up on bounces a profit center. It's a really good excuse to contact your clients. So you've got your list together, you're going to send your email, and the key thing is that you want to send it regularly, as we talked about. So once you're doing that, your clients will be looking forward to getting this email, but will they actually open it? Will they look at it? The first thing that's important here is the subject line, the email subject line. You need to put some effort into it. And what I mean by that is, if you just have on it the Yarra Valley Vet Clinic newsletter, and you do that every month, it gets a bit boring, and it's not something that's going to hook people in. So we've given you some tips here. Here's a few examples of, subject lines that work, like easy tips to say safe this summer, or dental duties, what you need to know. They're informative, they're engaging, they're relevant. Might be something like, look at what the Yarra Valley's team did to raise money for, the local charity, or something like that. Something that's local. But what we find is, if you use a subject line that is engaging, you get many, many more people looking at that newsletter. And so part of the process is making sure you're thinking of subject lines and putting them in there that are actually relevant to your clients, and do it every time you do it. Now, we've talked about the subject line of the email. And by the way, we're presuming you're using a system that has the ability to put subject lines in it, and enables you to lay content out. And there are many, many systems. And we at Petpack have our own system that we use for our clients. But these things I'm talking about do require you to have a structure. So if you're just going to rely on Gmail to create these emails, you have less flexibility and less ability to have something that's actually interesting and engaging. So we're going to have a look at an example, a live example in a minute. But before we do that, I just want to go through a couple of things about what you want in terms of what you put in your newsletter. Now, this is this slide actually has an example on it of a real email newsletter. This is for one of our clients who work within Western Australia, which is, it's, by the way, Western Australia's borders are shut at the moment. You can't go there, so you just have to take my word for it. This is an example of a very good newsletter, because as we're looking at this slide, so you've got text on the left-hand side talking about the newsletter, and you've got a picture of one of the staff members in the newsletter there. How many of you are looking at the picture and not reading the words? And I say that because most people look at pictures first before they read the words. And it's a really important message for vet clinic staff, particularly vets who are not taught to work with images. They're taught to work, they learn through text. Their tendency is not to go for images first. And it was a lesson that was taught to me when I was the vet for Australia's biggest selling magazine, where the editor said to me on very early days, she said, James, the most important thing are the pictures. That's where we spend all our money. And then the text comes second. So you can see here for Cannington, this is Cannington Vet, this example sitting here, that they've put one of their staff members right up front and center. And so when the client gets their email and they like the subject line because it probably talks about this person, her name's Tani, Tani's 15 years or something like that. Crikey, I know Tani, I'm going to go and have a look. There's a picture of her straight away. And that makes all the difference, because if you do that, and this is what we advocate, you have really good local pictures in there, then your client will then scroll down and read animal healthcare information that actually helps them look after their animals better. Whereas if you don't have the picture in there of Tani, you're much less likely to get someone to even read. Let's have a look at an example. Here's another one. This is one from Queensland that a client we work with, and I'm showing you this in a live format, or the whole format, so you can see the whole structure of the newsletter. This is obviously displaying on a desktop, but remember, most people will be looking at this on their phones, and the first thing they see is the staff and their animals. And most of these clients at this practice know these people, so they have an immediate connection, and they've got all their contact information. They can just call the clinic straight off the top here. So we're getting all the important information up front. Then below that, there's some text which they've put in there, and this is what we call their local content. So it's got a bit of news and a deal and, you know, promotions. This is, you know, it's really important that these newsletters that you put out fit your culture. So the clients will be used to this sort of communication. And then what they've got, which is really cool, is puppy of the month type thing. So there's a new puppies for the clinic. And for my money, if you take a photograph of a new puppy with the client's permission, put it in the newsletter with a little note saying, welcome to Barney and the Johnson family, that content is gold. That will get your clients so hooked into the newsletter, because what you want them to do is go, that's amazing, aren't they amazing? And they scroll down and then they come across some healthcare information, which might be relevant to them. And this is where you have high grade content written by vets who know how to write for the general public. And the person will read this. They'll scan through it and pick something out from it. And if it's not relevant to them, they keep going. And you can see there is a series of articles, which we won't go through all of them together, running down the page. And the key thing is that there'll be something in there that triggers that person to actually call the clinic. So that's a live format of an email newsletter. So moving on now to the next part is, when do you send your newsletter? Now, the most important thing about when to send, from my perspective, is regularity. We recommend monthly because we find that's the most effective frequency. But probably more important than that is doing it regularly, so that it goes out the same time every month, because you want to build a habit, establish a habit with your client. They're expecting it to come. They're looking forward to it. That will increase your engagement. There's a couple of things about this that to make that happen, you need to think about it and make sure you've actually allocated some time to do it, because generally what happens, if you're anything like myself, is you'll come to the timeline when you're meant to send and you haven't actually got it ready and you're rushing. So it's a bit of a cramming mentality. I don't know how many of you out there are crammers, but you know, there's a fair few of us that are. So it's much better to have a bit of a plan and make sure you getting your ducks in a row before, so that you can send on time every time. And when I say send on time, I don't mean by the minute, but that day, it has to be the same. You know, it's the first of the month, or within the first couple of days of the month, every month. Now, planning and investment are important when you're doing any online marketing, and particularly for regular email communications, you need to have a plan. The reason you need to have a plan is because you can start off all enthusiastic about doing email, and by the time you get to the third one, you absolutely run out of ideas and the whole thing's too hard. So a wise person said to me, in terms of content a few years ago, if you're going to start doing a regular communication, limit the jobs you have to do to ensure that you can actually get it done on time every month. So what that means is, it's better to put one article out once a month than it is to put 50, because what will happen is if you start off wanting to put 50 out there, whether or not anyone wants to read 50, you put 50 out the first month, and by the time you get to the third month, you just don't have the energy to do it. So one of the key things is thinking about, how am I going to get the right amount of content on a regular basis to my clients? And that's where Petpack comes in, because we provide a series of pieces of content for the clinic to use, which we'll get to in a minute. So the first thing is to think about how you're going to get the expertise, the time and the money to actually get the content together. And then in terms of planning, what we do is we have a 12-month schedule of communications, which has key topics. We share that with our clients, and what that does, it allows the clinic to organize their marketing program around that schedule, because often they don't have a program, or if they do have a program that doesn't fit with what we've done, we adjust the timetable to fit what they're doing. But the key thing is, you need It's pretty straightforward, a 12-month schedule, which can be on an A4 piece of paper. It tells you what topics you're going to be doing each month, and then what date you're going to be sending the emails and who's going to be actually writing the content. And, think about topics that are relevant to your client base. You know what they all are. And we certainly can help you with, what that 12-month schedule looks like. So we've talked about email as a regular communication, like an email newsletter, which is probably the best way to do a regular communication and the benefits of that. What about more targeted emails? And what we talk about here are campaigns. So you might have a campaign that focus on a particular topic, and it's usually done in a short period to get people's attention, to get them to act, and then you move on to something else the next month, or you have a break. You can see as an example here, which is lumps and bumps. Dental is probably the most obvious one that most people don't get involved with. And the benefit of doing a marketing campaign, which involves email, news, messages, which I'll show you an example of in a minute, but also might include social posts as well, is that they supplement what a clinic is trying to do. So if a clinic's trying to promote dentals, having a marketing campaign like this, which can be employed at the same time for that month, will greatly enhance the number of pet owners that see and act on that opportunity to get their teeth cleaned. So we get results of approximately 50% increase in the number of people that take up the dental offer during dental month compared to when the campaign's not done. And that's for clinics that are well organized, that do their dental campaign, their dental months. They know their numbers, and they know that when they run a campaign, it boosts it by 50%. So 50% is good. There's more animals being cared for. The clinic's geared up and ready for it, and the extra margin falls to the bottom line for the practice. So it makes the practice more profitable. So having a look at an example of this is an example of an email used in a dental campaign. And you can see straight away, it's pretty clear if you receive this, it's about dental. And the killer here is the picture. The picture is just awesome, just blow your mind. It's cute, it's funny, but it's also very clear that, it's time to get the teeth checked. And most of your pet owner clients know about this. They know about this issue. You've talked about it in consult room. They know about the smell. They just haven't done something about it. We know that 80% of dogs and cats over 3 years have got dental disease. So this is a very good way to trigger them, because they're probably thinking, I need to do it. Maybe feeling a bit guilty. Let's do something. So they have a look. They go, that's interesting. They scroll down. There's a bit of info, astounding, 80% of dogs, blah, blah, blah. Not too much. Straight into the offer. Here we go. 15% off, free dent hills, blah, blah, blah. And look here, book online straight away. There's no mucking around, straight into it, because some people are ready to go. They just need the trigger. So let's have a look at what this book online button does. So I click on that. That takes me straight into the Vetstoria booking link. And you can see this has been created for this webinar today. And normally this link would sit within your clinic website. But the key thing about the Vetstoria booking link is it can be set up for the campaign. So you can see here we've got a dental 15% off here. So let me just see if I click on I'm a returning client. And then what I'm going to do is click through to the next. I've chosen, I'm a cat. I've got a cat, by the way. Clicking through to the next screen. Now, Nate from Vetstoria might want to make a few comments here.
Yeah, actually, before we go into this, I just want to say that cat with a toothbrush, that looks amazing. I really,
yeah,
those emails that you've shown, they look incredible. And just looking back at the emails I sent, I mean, I'm learning loads, by the way. So thank you very much. Yes, so
thanks, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, so James is literally taking you through, just normal booking process, but clearly this clinic doesn't want Thursdays and Fridays to be booked for this dental campaign. And these are just some of the customizations that Vetstoria can do, based on the species, based on the doctor preferences. Everything is customizable. And James, if you want to just click on the time slot and just click on the next screen, just choose any time, and we can. So all this does is that I'm sure you use some kind of practice management system. So this is synchronized in real time. And that's the key automation that we find, clinics are very appreciative of. It just saves you time massively. All this is, working in the background. Once it's set up, it only just, it just works in the background. And so I think this is just to demonstrate that, apart from having your online booking widget on the website all the time, you can set up a campaign specific one. So the time slots that are shown are only meant to be booked for this campaign. So that's all. But yeah, back to you, James.
So thanks, Nate. And so adding to that, I think it's important to say that as much as possible, when you're thinking about client engagement like this, you want to be thinking like a consumer. And if you're anything like me, during the COVID period, this has been exacerbated by sitting on the couch because you've got to be at home, and almost like a sense you want to do something. So you're doing stuff on your phone and you want to be able to book these things. Now, these emails, they're not going to be looking at these emails necessarily during office hours. You're going to be on the couch after work, had dinner or something, you're flicking through. You want to be able to act on it straight away. Now, that's the benefit of the online booking. You do not want to have to ring, because if you do, you're missing a bunch of people, and your opportunity, even though they still think dental is important, you've lost the chance. So it's really helpful to have this online booking and to have very minimal obstruction to that consumer to going through and going, bang, I'm going to book it straight away. And I've been doing it a lot. Using the online facilities with service providers and also retailers as well. Okay, so that's marketing campaigns, and the good thing about marketing campaigns is that you can run them over a short period. So if you want to work with someone like Petpack, for example, you can test the appeal of an organization like Petpack by saying, look, I want to do a campaign. And we've had some great success in Dental Month doing that with new clients as well. So campaigns are good, and email is a big part of it. And lastly, the thing about campaigns is that email gives you the permission to put these offers in front of people, which I said before, but it's important to know that it's a valid, legitimate channel. They've given you the email, they're expecting content to come from you. All right, so getting into look, how do we know this is all working? I've talked about a few stats in there, but the important thing to understand with email is there are a couple of metrics that are important to note. Open rate is the main one. And open rate means how many people of your 2,000 actually looked at it. So the industry average is about 20%. Petpack client emails get about 30%. So we're about 50% above industry average, which is great. And the key reasons for that are that we provide a structure for the clients, we encourage them to put their local content in, and we help them with that format. And then we work really hard on the healthcare information that's in there that's engaging. It's engaging, great images, etc., as we've been talking about. So, this 30% open rate long term will absolutely blow any marketing company off their stools. They don't see numbers like this. They see numbers like 5%. You're lucky to get 5%. So this shows you very strongly that your clients, as long as you give them good quality info, want to hear information from you. They will just lap it up. It's a terrific opportunity. The next thing is click rate, which is probably talked about more often in email if you've ever had any conversations about it. Click rate for us is less important because when we're running an email newsletter, it's about the information in the newsletter. It becomes very important when you're running a dental offer and you want people to book online. We track that book online number. We want that number to be high. So if that makes sense, is that the newsletter is about learning stuff now, and then the person processing and then acting. But the promos, the marketing campaigns, is about actually getting them to act and making that booking. Now, the good thing about email, like a lot of web tools is you can look at your analytics and then you can see how it's going. And we'll have a look at some analytics in a sec. So let's go and have a look now at, here's some analytics I want to show you for a clinic. So I'll just orientate you on the page here. This is the Petpack emailing system. And so all of our clients who run an email newsletter with us, it's run through this system. It's a clever system because it allows the clinic to add their own content to an already created newsletter that we make. So that's what makes it unique. So this clinic here, you can see there's a little example of their newsletter is sitting here. So you know this is, let's say this is your newsletter, you know, this is the one I sent. Yep, I understand that. For this newsletter, let's run through the data here. You've got 2,176 were sent. So their list is just a bit above average. It's a good list. And then you've got the opens. 872 people opened it, which is 40%. Now, as I said before, our numbers on average are 30. So this is significantly above the average. 14 people clicked it. So as I said before, very low on the newsletter. We're not looking for them to click on anything. There's no offers necessarily that we're driving through here. 5 of them bounced. And these are the ones that you want to contact. You click on this link and see how many of these people have got a real problem, and you get on the phone and call them. And then your unsubscribes are people who've decided they don't want the email anymore. And you just want to keep an eye on that keeping it as a very low number. So that's a report. And as you scroll down the page, you can see a couple other bits of information that are interesting. It's the stats for when the newsletter is viewed. So you can see very heavy around evening time, and then it tapers off. But then the next day, you still got people picking up the interest on that. And there's a whole bunch of other information here which you can use, and then you can look at all your previous editions as well. So the key point here is looking at the sort of broad stats here, and that the fact that you've got 40% of people looking at this, which is very strong. One of the reasons why it's so strong is that the main vet in the practice puts an article at the top here. You can see the picture of the baboon there every month, and so the clients really love that local story that's coming in that she puts in there every month. All right. So the Petpack newsletter system, which I've showed you, the key thing about it is, if you're interested in using this, that we provide a complete newsletter to you weeks before it needs to go out. And it gets sent to you and you can look at it, read it, and then you go into you click on it, go into our system, and you can edit it. And that's where we encourage you to put your local content, your article, your staff member of the month, your puppy of the month in there. And then once you've done that and you've checked all the other content, we look after the entire process of sending. You can send any time you want, but we have a recommended send time, and we manage the whole sending process.